We have discussed about functions. What is function overloading? Any doubts by far? Okay. All right then. Let's start with the next topic, which is structures in C++, right? So, what are structures? Why do we need structures? Why do we need structures? Yeah, I'll take that up in the next session, no problem. Yes. So when we talk about the structure, structure is a user-defined data type. हाँ वो मैं करवा दूंगी अभी मृदुला in the next session I'll take it up. Right. So structures in C, that's a user-defined data type, right? And why do we need it? Because it is capable of containing similar, uh, it is capable of containing the similar and different data type. है ना? It has the capability to contain similar and different predefined data types. Right. Now let's understand this with the help of an example. Right. Let me say I have an object which has a real life existence, जैसे मैंने बोला book. Right. So book has a real life existence. Right. When I talk about a book, what all properties can be associated with a book? कैसी properties रख सकते हैं हम book के अंदर? What all information do we need when we talk about any particular book? Can I say I need the title of the book, right? Then who's the author of the book? How many number of pages are there? Then again, price क्या है उस book का, right? So all these things and many more things are available when we talk about a particular book, है ना? तो इतनी सारी information we can relate with a particular book. Any book in the world, if I talk about, right, it is going to have at least these four information associated with it. Agreed? कोई भी book की अगर बात करोगे, so it's going to have all these four information associated with it. Right. But again, as a book can be, thousands of books can be there. Let me say the first book I'm talking about is B1, the second one is B2. Right. And now I'm talking about normal variables. I need to create these four variables for book 1 as well as book 2. Right. तो normally किस तरह से variable create करते हैं? How do I create the variables normally? So for book 1 I'll take four variables. ठीक है? Title के लिए T1 लिया, author के लिए let me say I'm taking A1, for the pages let me say P1, and for price let me say C1. These are the variables I'm trying to take to store the information of book 1. Right? Similarly, for book 2 also, I'll need four different variables. Let me name them as T2, A2, P1 and P2 and C2. Right? This is for book 2. Now, when I look at the RAM, this is my RAM. Okay, ये RAM है मेरा. When I look at RAM, what happens now? Uh, can you tell me how are these variables stored in the memory? किस तरीके से stored होते हैं memory में? Are they stored contiguous or are they stored in any random locations? Tell me. कैसे store होगा? I'm talking about normal in variables, right? No structure, no array, nothing, right? I'm talking about the normal variables, right? 8 different variables I have created. So these variables can be anywhere in the memory at random locations. This could be T1, right? This could be A1, P1 could be somewhere here, C1 could be somewhere here, T2, A2, right? Then P2, and then C2 maybe somewhere here. That's how it is situated in the RAM, right? Now, when I look at this organization of the RAM, is there any link between these four variables of book one? Technically or logically, I know that these four variables are related to each other because they are the information of one particular book, which is B1, right? But when I look at the RAM, am I able to formulate any association between these variables which are defined in the RAM? No, right? Same goes for B2 also. I'm not able to, although these four variables are related to each other. Why? Because they all belong to, they all are the information of book B2, right? But when I look at the RAM, there is no association between these variables, and they're not at all linked when I look at this organization of RAM, right? Second thing, now there can be thousands and lakhs of books, right? I might have to store, suppose I'm managing a library, तो वहां पे मुझे I have to store an information of thousands and lakhs of books, right? So how many variables will I need in that case? अगर 10,000 book की information store करनी है, how many variables would I need in that case? 10,000 into 4. Each book has further 4 variables associated with it, right? So these many variables I would need to contain the information, and because they are not linked to each other, 10,000 into 40,000 different names I'll have to memorize to retrieve the information for any particular book, right? Memorize भी तो करना पड़ेगा ना. Can we use customizable default values for uninitialized variables? What is customized default value? Okay. So that is, you'll have to initialize, right? If the user is not providing any value, that means at the time of initialization, you provide some. Instead of garbage, it will take a value 10. You initialize it, don't leave it uninitialized. Right. So now coming back here, as I said, if I create the variables in this sense, one variable at a time, so what happens is I need 40,000 different variables to store the information of 10,000 books. And then again, to retrieve any information about any book, I'll have to know the name of the variable, right? मुझे उस वेरिएबल का 40,000 वेरिएबल्स का नाम भी याद रखना पड़ेगा, which variable belongs to which book, that also I'll have to memorize so as to retrieve that information. Of course, that's going to be a very difficult task for us, right? Now, that's going to be a very, very difficult task for us. So how do we manage this task in a better way, right? It will be so easy for me if I bundle these four information together, right? If I want to make this task easy, what do I need to do? I'll take one book B1 and all the information about that book B1, I'll bundle it together and keep it, right? So can I say that's a better way to store the data and to retrieve the data, right? I know when I talk about B1, so all these variables belong to B1, they are bundled together and kept. तो retrieve करना information कितना easy हो जाएगा in that sense. So that is where Acha, one way was by far to store the data closely packed or in the contiguous manner. We were using a data type which is called array, right? Now in this case, can I use array? Can I use array for the situation are we see here, or B is being represented here? Can I use an array to store this data? No. Why cannot I use an array? Because array means collection of similar data type. But when I talk about the information about any book, right? Do we always have data of similar type? No. We can have data which is of different data types, right? Now, if you look at this book, right? The book का title है, title can be of type string, author can be of type string, pages can be type integer, and when I talk about price, this can be of type float, right? That's what happens, right? So what are we trying to do here? We are trying to keep together the information which is of different data type. Do you understand this point? I'm trying to bundle together the information which is of different data type. Same data type hota, I would have used array. But because this is of different data type, we won't be able to use this concept of array here, right? To bundle together the information which is of different data type, what do we need? We need another data structure, or not data structure, data type, right? Which is user defined and which is called structure, right? So what will I do? I'll use a keyword struct, right? And I'll give the name to the structure. What is the name of the structure? Book, right? And each and every book on this planet will have all this information associated for sure, है ना? तो वो सारी information what will I do? I'll bundle it inside a structure, right? Like first thing in the book is string title, right? Again, second thing would be string author, right? Again, next thing would be int number of pages, and the last thing that it is going to have is float price, right? And I close it with a semicolon, right? Whatever information, possible information that all the books are going to have, right? We will bundle that information together inside the data type which is called book, right? अब बताओ मुझे, have I, this is just a data type, right? We are creating a user defined data type which is capable of storing four different information about any book in this world, right? Next thing now, by far have I allocated any memory to this particular thing? क्या अभी तक कोई memory associate हुआ है? No, right? When I talk about a structure, structure is what? Just a blueprint. है ना? Structure is just a blueprint. That means I'm trying to tell this is just a blueprint. I'm trying to tell that any book will have this information associated with it. है ना? But have I actually defined किसी particular book की बात करी अभी तक मैंने? No, I have not given any value to it. I have not talked about any particular book. I'm talking about books in general, that any book will have all these four informations associated. But then again, I'm not talking about any particular book. ठीक है? तो ये सिर्फ क्या है? This is just a layout. This is just a blueprint, right? So when is the memory associated with this structure? कब होती है memory associate इसके साथ? अच्छा, एक और analogy हम use कर सकते हैं. Let me say I'm writing int, ठीक है? एक तरफ मैंने लिखा int, and on the second hand on the I'm writing int a, ठीक है? तो अब मुझे बताओ, this is data type, this is predefined data type, right? And this is data type with variable, right? So अब मुझे बताओ, when I talk about these two differentiations, in which case is the memory allocated? Memory किस चीज को allocate होती है? Int a, right? A is the one for which the memory is allocated. Int is just a type, right? Int is just a type. The memory is always allocated to the variable, right? So same way, when I talk about a structure, int की कोई ना कोई definition तो होगी ना? Int must have a definition, but that definition is written in IO stream, है ना? वो definition कहाँ लिखा होगा? IO stream के अंदर. And I have no knowledge about how it is being created. But on the other hand, when I talk about this book, this is also what? This is also a data type. But the difference is only the definition of this data type is I'm the one to give the definition, right? So if I write book, right, will any memory be associated with it? No, because this is just a data type. So when is memory associated? When I create the variable of this data type book B1. Do you get my point? Now B1 is a variable of type book and memory is associated with this particular variable which is called B1. Do you get my point? B1 is what occupies the memory in the RAM. Clear? Now when I talk about B1, what all information will be stored inside B1? B1 के अंदर क्या क्या information होगा? Can I say it has the space for 4 different information, right? It will store title, right? It will store author, it will store pages, and it will store the cost of the book. यही सारी है. That's what we are saying, right? For any book that we talk about will have all this 4 information associated with it. That's what the book data type means, right? So when I create the variable of this data type book B1, right? So B1 will have the space for all the 4 information that we have defined inside book. Do you get my point? Any doubts by far? किसी को कोई डाउट है यहाँ पे? Please class. You have already studied this in C also. I'm just trying to, you know, to revise these concepts for you. जी, shall we move forward then? अब क्या होगा? Now, this is one variable. Can I create multiple variables of type book? क्या हम book के multiple variables create कर सकते हैं? How will we do that? As any other variable, right? किसी भी और variable की तरह we can have different yes. तो book के लिए भी और variable create हो सकता है. Let me say I write book B2, right? So another variable is created in the memory. The name of that variable is B2. So again, ये block बना for B2. Again, in B2, it will have the capacity to store 4 different information, right? One is title, other one will be author, right? फिर बना pages, and then the cost of the or the price of the book. So it will also have all these 4 information which is associated with the book in this variable B2. हर बुक का, है ना, ये चीज तो कॉम्प्रिहेंड कर ही सकते हो ना कि हर बुक का अपना टाइटल, ऑथर, पेजेस और प्राइस होगा, right? So for book B1 I'll have the capacity for all the 4. For book B2 I'll have the capacity for all the 4. Is it clear to everyone? Now how do I access the variables? If I want to access the title of book B1, so how will I access that? Access कैसे करते हो इनको? By using the dot operator. Right? If I want to access what title is written here inside this block, so what will I write? I'll write B1 dot title, right? If I want to access the author of book B2, so what will I write? B2 dot author. Again, the name of the variables will be these itself, title, author, page, cost, जो भी आप देना चाहते हो, whatever is written here, that will be the name of the variables used. But again, in which object these variables have been defined, accordingly you will use the dot operator to access it. So b1 dot title means this title I'm talking about. b2 dot author means the author which is written inside the b2 block, and that's what I'm talking about. No, arrow operator is for pointer, Lalit. That's for pointer to structure. That's where we use the arrow. For a normal variable, normal structure variable, you'll use the dot operator itself. Okay. Yes. Okay. Let's just implement this on the compiler as well. Right? ये चीज को implement करके देख लेते हैं. All right. Okay. So let me create a struct variable book, struct data type book, and in the book I have string title, okay, int number of pages in the book, and let me say float price, right? So if you look at this, I'm using string as the data type here, right? In C++, yes, string is a data type in C++, right? So instead of the character array, you can directly go for string data type, right? So I'm terminating it with a colon, semicolon, then again int main. In the main, I need to create the variables, right? So in the main, I need to create the variables for this book. By far, no memory has been associated, right? By far, no memory has been associated with it. Now I need to create, I need to store the information about two books. So what will I do? I'll create two variables, book b1 comma b2. Let me create these two variables. Then again, how will I store the information in b1? b1 के अंदर title, pages और price, these three informations will go. So how will I access it? b1 dot title equal to c++ book, right? Again, b1 dot pages equal to 200, right? b1 dot price equal to whatever floating point value you want to give, right? Same way you can store the information in b2 as well. b2 dot title, whatever name you want to give, let me say it's a dbms book, right? b2 dot pages, that's maybe 400, and b2 dot price, right? So whatever the price of the book is, that's how you store the information about the book b1 and b2. And one difference between the structures in C and C++, C में you always had to use the struct keyword here, है ना? Struct book b1 b2 इस तरह से करते थे. With always with the name of the structure you had to use the struct keyword. But here in C++ you can avoid this. You can directly write book, right? So again, if I need to print this information, so cout maybe b1 dot title, that's what I need to access. So again, when I execute this, variables will be created and you see the output is generated as CPP book, right? So that's how you use a structure to access the information. right? That's a user defined data type which is capable of storing same and different data types. Clear? Okay. Now, if I talk about this variables B1 and B2, what is the scope and lifetime of these two variables? क्या है scope and lifetime of these variables B1 and B2? Yes, tell me. What is the scope and lifetime of B1 and B2? These are declared in main, so can I say main function? यही होगा ना इनका lifetime and scope because they are declared in main function, right? So can I have global structure variables as well? ये तो local हो गए ना, these are local to main. Can I have global structure variables as well? Yes. So what can I do? I can write here B3 as soon as I declare the structure, right? So before closing the structure with a semicolon, I can declare a variable here as well. Like I've written B3, है ना? तो ये third structure variable create हो गया, which is B3. So what is the scope and lifetime of this particular variable? This is a global structure variable, है ना? This can be used anywhere inside the program, right? So B3, अच्छा इसको initialize भी कर सकते हैं. I can also initialize it by using the curly brackets, whatever name of the book you want to give, comma, the pages, and then again the price of the book, right? So this is how you can initialize these variables as well. Clear? कोई डाउट किसी को? सोते हुए लोग? ओके, अनदर थिंग. अच्छा, आप मुझे ये बताओ, व्हेन आई टॉक अबाउट सी लैंग्वेज, ठीक है, क्या हम डिफॉल्ट वैल्यूज दे सकते हैं यहाँ पे? इफ आई टॉक अबाउट द नंबर ऑफ पेजेस एंड आई असाइन इट इक्वल टू 0, इज दिस थिंग वैलिड इन सी? क्या ये चीज सी में वैलिड है? price equal to 0.0 maybe. Is this thing valid in C? Can I initialize the structure variables here? Not valid, right? Right, not valid. But when I talk about C++, let me remove this b2 dot price and b, right? और मैं यहाँ पे print कर रही हूँ b2 dot price, right? You C++ allows you this thing. So you can see b2 dot price when I'm using, it's giving me a value 0. Right? When I talk about, so another difference between C and C++ structure is you can initialize the structure variable at the time of declaration. So that's another difference between C and C++ structure. In C++, it is allowed to set a default value for the structure variables at the time of declaration. No error is raised. So you can set the default values here. Getting my point? और मृदुला क्या पूछ रही थी? If you want to declare two global variables, so what? B3 आपने initialize कर दिया यहाँ पे, so comma and B4, that's another variable which is created for you. So any number of variables can be declared here separated by comma, right? right? Ji. Now, one more thing which is very different from C++, C and C++, क्या हमने कभी कोई functions use किए हैं in the structure? Does C provide you any possibility to have a function inside a structure? नहीं, C नहीं करता था ना allow. C wouldn't allow you to have functions inside the structure. But when I talk about this um, structure in C++, we are also allowed to have functions inside this structure. ठीक है, तो मैं एक get नाम का function रख सकती हूँ, wherein if I want I can take the inputs from the user for all these values, maybe title, right, or uh, number of pages and then price. तो इस तरह से I can have the a function inside the structure as well. तो इसको यूज कैसे करते हैं आगे? How can I use it? Again, as I said, मैं so what will make C++ allow functions and initializations? Upgradations ही हैं, because these all things are actually they're uh, when we talk about object oriented, right? When we talk about the classes, this is actually the feature of classes itself. When you talk about this member function, right? So when you talk about a class has all these members. Along with that, they have the member functions. So what we generally do is we'll keep these data members as private, and when we talk about these member functions, these are the only way to access the data members. That's the whole concept of object and classes, right? We're giving the security from the perspective of security. That's important, right? So eventually we have to move towards the classes itself, which allows you each and everything. So maybe that's why they have upgraded the structure in such a way, right? So eventually you'll see when you move on to the classes, all you'll have to do is just to change these variables here, and little bit of access specifiers will be mentioned, right? So otherwise, that's as I'm saying, the upgradation of structure is itself what is classes. The whole concept is same, just the uh, concept of access specifier will be what is new in classes, right? So maybe that's the reason they have included all of that in structure itself, right? हाँ, तो हम क्या बात कर रहे थे? When I talk about a structure, right? So I have the variables. Now I have the capacity to include the functions as well. ठीक है? तो अब मुझे क्या करना है? When I talk about book, I have created two variables here, B1 and B2, right? So maybe I want to take the input for the book B1. So instead of writing, previously I was writing b1 dot title, right? So instead of that, I can directly go for b1 dot get. I can call the function dot get with the help of b1. तो उससे क्या होगा? Automatically, I had to write this line once, and I can call it as many as times as I want. एक और function बना सकते हैं. Maybe the function name is display, right? And display might display all these values: see out title, right? Handle, then again see out pages and see out price, right? तो इस तरह से once I've got the input for b1, so I can directly write b1 dot display. इस तरह से I can make the use of functions which are written inside the structure. Instead of calling these variables one by one, I can make the use of functions. So clutter कम हो जाता है ना? अच्छा, मैंने कुछ गड़बड़ करी है इधर. Okay, so this is pages and not page. Right. So you can see it is running fine. तो पहली बुक थी C++, right? Maybe the number of pages and then the price. When I enter, so you are displayed these values on the screen. Do you understand this point? So that's also something new in C++, that C++ allows you to have, these are called the data members, right? These variables, these are called the data members. And along with the data members, you have the possibility of member functions as well. तो member functions से काम क्या बना मेरा? With the help of member functions, what I'm trying to do, I'm just clearing the clutter. b1 dot title लिखना था, फिर b1 dot pages, then b1 dot price. So I'm using just one function, b1 dot get, instead of writing all the three things again and again. Do you understand this? And again, as you can see, these member functions or these variables, they are accessible any from anywhere inside the function, है ना? Main से भी हम इनको access कर पा रहे हैं. Why? Because of the members of a structure are public. Public means they can be used anywhere throughout the function, program. ठीक है, इसीलिए you are able to access these inside the main. Is it clear to everyone? Take a minute with it. कोई doubt है तो पूछो. Yes, of course they will act as default. ये चीज, you're asking why am I initializing it to 0 and 0.0, right? That's what you're asking. So thing is, now look at this line. I have created two variables, book b1 and b2, right? तो अगर मैं यहाँ कुछ ना लिखूं, वैसे तो ऑलरेडी जीरो से इनिशियलाइज हो ही जाता है. सो लेट मी से बाय डिफॉल्ट आई एम सेइंग मिनिमम ऑफ 200 पेजेस एवरी बुक शुड हैव. ठीक है, तो अगेन if I'm writing book b1 and b2, what information is contained now in b1 and b2? अभी तक I have not initialized b1 and b2, right? हर कॉपी में बुक की जितनी भी कॉपीज बनेंगी b1 b2 और नंबर ऑफ वेरिएबल्स दैट आई क्रिएट, by default all these will contain the value that you have initialized here. Do you get my point? So if I talk about b1 dot pages, it also has the information 200, b2 dot pages, that also has the information 200. Yes, it is default value. And again, because I'm using b1 dot get, right, you can always update that value. You can always override that value by inserting it. जैसे मैंने यहाँ पे scene करवा लिया है ना, so scene dot get, sorry, है ना, b1 dot get किया, so I'm taking the number of pages from the user, so I can update that value at any pointer that I want. हाँ, तो वो डिफॉल्ट वैल्यूज आप सेट कर रहे हो. एग्जैक्टली, राइट? ओके, चलो, join the next session.